Today we have Sergio, formerly of Notre Dame, three-time USILA All-American, three-time All-ACC selection, team captain. I read this off the site. It was most goals by a midi in program history, an 11th or 6th in overall goals in program history at 111th. Sergio then went on to be drafted 2nd overall by the Boston Cannons. And this year, he made it on the Redwoods PLL team. I believe I have it down that you made it also in the All-Star game. I'm pretty sure I saw you on that list. And your team made it to the championship game in your first year. So congrats on all that, my man.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You had a lot of success in the game of lacrosse. So talk to us a little bit about it. What got you into lacrosse out of any other sport? What drew you into this game?
So growing up, everyone's from Michigan, right? State of Michigan?
Actually, we have a lot of different states. We advertised you true wide, my man. So
Midwestern, all right. A lot of Midwest, a lot of all over, I guess. But I played every sport growing up, and I loved sports in general. Football, basketball, hockey was actually my first sport. So I was familiar kind of with handling like a stick. And then when I got introduced to lacrosse, I think I was in 5th grade. And my parents signed me up for like a little camp that was locally around here where I live, in Birmingham, Michigan. And I started playing it, and I loved the combination of like the athleticism that you got to use like on the field, like obviously running, sprinting, using your body, physicality, and then all the finesse and the stick work and the skill work when it came to like using a stick and a ball and like getting so much better and like seeing yourself when you're at a young age get so much better at a sport, because it's a really difficult sport to pick up at first, but you get really good in the first couple of years. And I loved seeing that. I loved that progression. And then I loved that I could, use my athleticism along with all that skill work I was developing to become a really good player. And it's such a creative game, and it's a lot of fun, and you can kind of go out and practice on your own, which was cool. And whether it hit the wall, or I had a net in my backyard, and it was such a cool and creative game, and it drew me towards it, and I kept playing it, and I like absolutely loved it. So that's kind of in 5th grade where I got introduced to it, and I kept playing as I kept getting older, as well as other sports.
And so, and when you were at what point, obviously being a multi-sport athlete, you play all 3 sports in high school even?
In high school, my freshman and sophomore year, I played football, basketball, and lacrosse. And then junior and senior year, I just played football and lacrosse. So just the 2. So I narrowed it down. Kind of wish I still played all 3, but it was getting pretty difficult, and I wanted to use that time in between football and lacrosse for like weight training and just lacrosse skill work and a combination of working on football and lacrosse.
Now, I think this brings up a big topic that's being discussed today. How do you think being a multi-sport athlete helped you achieve that next level instead of just specializing in one sport like a lot of kids are doing these days?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was huge. Like I said, I played every sport growing up, and I know a lot of people saying multi-sport athlete's really important, but the thing for me is like on top of it being really important and helping my game in lacrosse and football and basketball and everything intersected, mentally it was also like a lot better for me, because I don't know if any of the kids can relate, but as much as I loved lacrosse, as much as I loved football, like it was always a breath of fresh air at the end of the season to know that, hey, I got another sport coming up and I can take a little break from the current one. And that was one of the things when I went to college that like I've never just played one sport my whole life. So when I went to college, I like loved lacrosse, but it became like, oh man, like I had nothing else to like, no other sports to look forward to. And so I would, play as many as you can when you're young, because it's going to, number one, help your games and help your different sports, but also number 2, mentally, it's just going to be so much better for you, and you're going to be so much more refreshed when you get into lacrosse season, or when you get into football, basketball, whatever it is you play, you can kind of be refreshed and take it in 100% instead of kind of getting tired of it or not being as excited to play.
Awesome. Now you talked about college. Let's start to ease our way into that. What was your recruiting process like, and how did you eventually decide to get into Notre Dame or go to Notre Dame?
The recruiting process it happened pretty quickly. I was never really thinking about college sports in general. I don't know, why it was. Like I knew I was a pretty good athlete. I know it was good, but it was always about getting good grades and just like being the best that I could be. And then once I got to, I think it was sophomore year, summer of my sophomore season, is when I first started like getting some looks for lacrosse at least. in college. And that's kind of when I realized like, oh, wow, I can actually, play this in college. And it was kind of exciting for me. I didn't play on like really any summer travel teams. I know that's big now, but I would just go to like I think I'd go to like 1 or 2 tournaments on the East Coast each summer. And I went to like one recruiting one and then one team one, I think summer of my sophomore year. And a bunch of coaches saw me and I got a lot of letters, but I was pretty specific on like what schools I wanted to go to. And once Notre Dame started talking to me, I knew it was going to be, either Notre Dame or like something else really big. So that's kind of how it worked. And, the Brother Ice thing helped me too. And my coaches in high school kind of helped connect me to the Notre Dame people, but also those couple tournaments I played in the summer. I also, before that summer, I'm sure a lot of kids do this now, but I reached out to like a list of like 20 or 30 schools and like 3 coaches from each school. I sent them an email and like a little bit about me and what tournaments I was going to be at that summer. And then like, I think maybe I had a highlight video at the time and I just like sent it out before the summer started so that maybe I could get on their radar once tournaments and stuff happened.
Now, I know there's all kinds of different things, obviously, with school. What were you looking for specifically that said this is a school I'm interested in or this is a school that I'm not interested in? Was it the size or the obviously education in there? What were you really looking for when you were making up your decision on where to go?
Yeah, I mean, like size wasn't really important for me. A lot, like a few factors. Number one, like I wanted like a school with a really good education.
Okay.
And then number 2, like the network and the name kind of played a role too, because I knew like if I wanted to be a part of like a program or a team or a school, like I'd like to be at a place that has like a bigger name, more notoriety. And then number 3, like having a good team was kind of important too, because I knew like how much I cared about lacrosse and like that I would be going there for lacrosse. So if I could get a combination of number 1, the education, name, notoriety, then 3 being like a good program, that's kind of like Notre Dame fit all 3 of those categories really well. And like I did get recruited by some Ivy Leagues, but at the time they weren't, at the level lacrosse wise that Notre Dame was. And I know Ivy League institutions are great and obviously great educations, but as far as sports culture, they're not as strong as like a Notre Dame. Like Notre Dame absolutely loves their sports. And so that was important to me. And then being not too far away, 3 hours away was kind of cool too, just because I knew it would be tough for my parents to get out to a lot of games if I went somewhere further. So that was another cool kind of plus in looking to where I wanted to go to school.
Are there any interesting stories that you can tell, just like, being a freshman at Notre Dame, first practice or like first experience with the team, kind of like the wake up call of like, whoa, okay, I'm in college now. This is a little bit different. Anything come to mind there?
I guess like a unique story, like for the first couple weeks of school, we only like did workouts. So it was kind of like gym stuff, running, sprinting, whatever, getting us ready. And a lot of the players were, I had no idea like how I would stack up because I hadn't really played against really high level competition my whole entire like life or career, whatever. So I like knew I was pretty good, but we were just doing workouts and like all the kids were kind of like, yeah, like he's a really good athlete. Like they recruited him as a D midi, like he's just going to play D probably. And I was like, that's fine with me. I guess like, I don't really care as long as I'm playing. And then like the first practice, I think I had like a bunch of goals and like a bunch of assists and like right away was going to for sure be playing offense. So that was like a cool wake up call and like being able to play with guys that were so like skilled and so fast and the ball moved so fast. I actually like loved it. And like, it wasn't like, oh shoot, this is like a huge adjustment. It was like, oh, this is awesome. I'm glad I'm like at playing with this level and playing with these kind of guys now.
Now take us through, because we hear all kinds of things. What's the day-to-day like as a Division I lacrosse player at a school like Notre Dame?
Yeah, I mean, the day-to-day is like obviously really busy. There's not much downtime. For me, like I'd get up early, like to have my breakfast, like to eat, like do all that. And then you'd have like 3 or 4 classes a day, depending on your schedule. And in between those classes is when I would try to do like as much work and studying as I could, because I knew it was going to be tougher at night. Around 3 or 4 is usually when you finish up classes and you just walk straight to the locker room, get ready for either if you have practice, lift, training, film, whatever it is. You're usually there for like 3 hours or 4 hours. And then after that, it's dinner. You're done by, 7:30, 8, do some more studying and then sleep and then next day. So it's pretty I mean, obviously it's more flexible because no one's like eyeing you all the time during class stuff, but it's a very structured schedule. If you want to do well, you have to really structure your time and make sure you're kind of getting stuff done every minute of the day.
Can you walk us through like a typical like travel day? Okay, so maybe you guys are traveling up to play against Syracuse. Okay, so like what goes on in terms of like the flights? I don't know, packing up your bags. Like I don't know, just kind of like walk us through. I always feel like it's interesting to hear different perspectives on different schools on how they travel for an away game.
Yeah, it kind of depends. I think one time we actually had like a chartered flight to Syracuse. Those were really nice because, I mean, you just go to the local South Bend airport and you have all your stuff with you and they pack your bags and you just are in and out. But normally what we'd have to do is pack our lacrosse bag and like, you know, a backpack with stuff that you need. We would take a bus from South Bend to one of the Chicago airports, which was like 2 hours. Freshmen had to bring the DVDs. Hopefully there was good movies. Then you'd fly from that Chicago airport to wherever we were play, and then the next day usually come back to Chicago. On the way back, we'd stop at Giordano's, get some pizza, and then sometimes we'd make it home to South Bend at like 3 a.m. That was not fun because then we'd have like school the next day and stuff. But when you're with all your friends, you build a lot of memories on those trips because it's like a 2-hour bus ride, plus you're on the flight, then you're coming back, another 2-hour bus ride. So, but yeah, it was cool. It's a little stressful sometimes, but it was fun, and you build a lot of memories for sure when you're traveling with the team.
Now I got to ask this question: is there one memory of one of these trips that really sticks out to you that you're never going to forget from your time at Notre Dame?
It's hard to pick out one memory, but I don't know. Wow, there was a lot of them. Obviously, the best memories were the ones flying back after big wins.
Okay, fair enough.
And when we had chartered flights from South Bend, because that made the trip a lot easier.
All right. So let's get into something that let's change gears a little bit here. What do you think is the difference between skill-wise and development-wise, mentality-wise? What does it take for these kids to become a Division I player? And then even then, how did you separate yourself to becoming an All-American? What did that take to achieve those levels of success?
Yeah, I mean, obviously – everyone always talks about it. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of just you have to enjoy the game, and you have to love it, and you have to really put in a lot of time because it's a very skilled game. And obviously, everyone always talks about wall ball, and a lot of you kids have probably heard it a million times now, and are like, oh, wall ball, whatever. But that kind of stuff's really important. And having a really good stick is so important. That's one of the top things. Is every single level I've played at, whether it's 5th grade to college to the pros, like. The guys that are on the field usually the most are the ones that have the best sticks at their position. Like it's really, really important. And then once you can get past having a really good stick and like having, a lacrosse background, lacrosse IQ, I think it's a very like athletic sport, and it's only getting like more and more athletic because so many athletes are playing. So if you can condition your body physically and athletically and be ready to compete at that level too, it's going to just help you that much more. So if you can have the combination of a really good stick and lacrosse skills, and then also, physically and athletically enhance your body as you get older, it's going to help you a lot. But it's also not like deterrent either. As you've seen, there's like guys that just have crazy sticks and crazy lacrosse skills that can still get on the field, but it just makes it a little harder if you don't have the other pieces.
I vividly remember, I think it was when you were playing against Denver, maybe your sophomore year, and you went off and scored like, a ton of goals in the fourth quarter. I mean, I remember even like getting chills. And I remember Paul Carcaterra, Quint Kesting must have said Motor City Hitman about like 5 times. Okay. Talk to me about like the feeling that you might've had like during that game, and just like, it was almost like you were like unstoppable. I mean, do you remember like that feeling that you had during that game?
Yeah. I get asked that a lot, obviously, because that was like a popular game that a lot of people saw. And it was like a big stage, obviously, Final Four. But at the time, I like was so like I've never been that like zoned in to a game. You kind of get in that zone, and like I didn't like literally didn't know anything else that was happening around me. Just like that, we needed to score a bunch of goals to get back in the game. So it was really cool. And like after, obviously, it sucked that we lost, but it was cool to like be in that moment and to help bring the team back and make plays at such a big stage and so close together. So it was like a huge energy rush, and like I was super zoned in, and you just get in that zone where it's like you catch the ball from anywhere and you're shooting it and it's going in type thing. It's kind of like those basketball players like that are just like get so hot and everything goes in. But lacrosse is a little harder because you don't get as many touches and as many shots to really get in that rhythm. So it's hard to ever get into like a crazy rhythm in lacrosse just because like the game's a little bit slower and it's not as back and forth and you're not touching the ball as much. But like that's kind of what I'd compare it to is like some of these basketball guys getting into like that zone.
Okay. So you move on, you get drafted number 2 overall for the Boston Cannons. You had a lot of success there, and now you're in the PLL. How was your first year in the PLL different than your first year with the Boston Cannons?
Yeah, I mean, the PLL it was awesome the first year last summer. I was super excited to join when like Paul and Mike talked to me like a couple of years back when they were deciding to go through with this. I think a few of the rule changes that they made really enhanced the game. One being like the field being 10 yards shorter, and then also the clock being 6 seconds quicker. And I was actually I've been watching some film just because I have some downtime now of some games last year, and it's cool to see like how back and forth the game is and how, you know, like even as a midi, the position is kind of changing and going back to playing D and O because it's really a disadvantage when the field is shortened and the clock is quicker to only play one position, because by the time defenders get to the offensive side of the ball, get off, and you get on, there's only 10 seconds, 15 seconds left on the clock. So if you can play D and play O, it's really a huge advantage. And I love like the pace and the way that the game was played. So, I mean, it was cool. I mean, I had a good time in Boston too, but I think PLL kind of is taking professional lacrosse to the next level, and it's a super, super fun to play. Then obviously I got reunited with a bunch of Notre Dame guys like John Sexton, who you guys were talking to after, who's awesome. And playing with those guys again is obviously like a ton of fun because I got to spend a bunch of years in college with them.
In terms of just kind of like a normal weekend for like the PLL versus the MLL. Obviously the MLL, it was like one game, one city. The PLL is like obviously kind of like the Final Four atmosphere. Like how does that like differ? Obviously a guy that's had the opportunity to do both. How does that differ on a weekend? Just maybe the experience that you have interacting with the other players, different fans and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think we go to some pretty cool cities, which is fun. So we have a lot of fun in like these other cities, but it's also cool to be able to play in front of, you know, different fans throughout the country every single weekend, as opposed to being kind of in one city for half your games. I think that was like the coolest part about it. And then got to create a lot of relationships with a lot of the players because we see them every weekend, obviously. And even though obviously on the field we're, you know, very tough and rivals, sometimes friends off the field, sometimes still not that friendly off the field, but it's cool. It's cool to see everybody and be with lacrosse players and lacrosse fans from all over the country and be in a different city every weekend to showcase your skills and meet, you know, a bunch of kids that play that are up and coming that really love the sport.
I know it was your guys' first year. You're still kind of learning everything. What was the number one team that you really enjoyed playing against that gave you probably the biggest challenge this year, in your opinion?
In the PLL, you're saying? Yeah. I mean, all the teams were like so good. I think playing Chaos was a lot of fun. I think we had a couple good games with them. Obviously, the Whip Snakes were a really tough team. We beat them once, and then they beat us twice, which kind of sucked. But like, it's cool playing against, you know, the top teams, and they were really good and really hard to defend and hard to score against too. They had a great defense, so they were fun to play against as well.
Right on.
Just in terms of obviously, like, I'm curious about this, okay, and I feel like it's almost like a controversial topic, okay. Help me understand that now, like, the pro players are full-time, okay? Like, what does that mean? And is that the entire league, or is that, like, half the people? I know you have a job that's, like, you know, in New York City, so clearly you're not just relying on lacrosse to be, like, a full-time job. But, like, do you understand? I felt like they came out and were like, all right, all of our players are going to be full-time. Like, walk me through what that means.
Well, I mean, obviously the increased salaries helps a lot. And then, so it's one, the increased salaries, and then benefits, which is pretty cool. I was actually in between jobs when I did start with the PLL. So I had health and dental and vision, like, insurance through PLL, which was never an option in the old MLL league. So having those two, having that was big, and increased salary helps a lot. And then also the exposure that they give us has helped, bring in other brands or sponsorships for a lot of these players. A lot of these players still coach on the side. They do a lot of clinics. They do that type of thing. So not everybody is obviously full-time, because it's a hard transition to just tell everybody that had jobs, like, hey, do this full-time. So but the opportunity is easier, and there's a better way to get there now. So there is a lot of guys that are, lacrosse is their thing. Obviously there's a lot of time still that you have, because we're only playing on the weekends for 15, 16 games. So they can coach, they can do other things in the off season to supplement that income. But it's just a bigger platform, and the benefits that they're giving to us help us achieve that goal and that mission. And then it also makes it more worthwhile for guys that are still working to put a lot of time in to lacrosse, because it's getting even more competitive. And if you don't come into training camp in shape, if you're not, your skills aren't on par, someone's taking your job, because there's only 18, 19 guys that suit up for each of these teams. So 6 or 7 teams. So if you do the math, it's a really small pool of guys still. And if you want to keep competing at this highest level, which, is like a dream in any sport, even if you do something on the side, it's so much fun. And being in a locker room with guys and being at this high of a level is great. So it's pushing everybody that much further and to be that much better, just because the stakes are a little higher.
Gotcha. So walk us through it while you're doing all these different things. What is your training like? How often are you in the weight room? What kind of workouts are you doing? How often do you got to stick in your hands? Walk us through that now, even at the highest level.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always working out. I've always been into it, working out. So I usually am lifting between usually 4 times a week, and then running, 5-6 times a week. Sometimes they'll be in my lift, sometimes not in my lift, but it's a lot of sprint work, a lot of agility type work, a lot of acceleration, explosion type things. Sometimes I'm posting on Instagram too, so I can do a better job of that. But yeah, so it's a combination. Working out has always been a big thing for me, and my athleticism is what's helped me create goals or create shots and be a good midfielder, because you need to run a lot. You need to, be strong, physical, and I'm a big body too. So 4 times a week I'm lifting. I'm running 4 or 5 times a week. Then it's stick in my hand. Shooting is I shoot a lot less than I used to shoot, which is actually almost a good thing, because at Notre Dame I caught myself shooting too much, and it's, especially from a midfield position, shooting puts a lot of strain on your body. And if your body, no matter how big and strong you are, it wears on you. So you kind of have to be conscious of those big shots, how many you're doing a week. So I try to shoot a little less, but wall ball is, can be an everyday thing for sure. And I at least have a stick in my hand 4 or 5 times a week, but shooting's probably shooting hard, big shots is probably twice a week for me now.
So a typical, what type of job do you have in New York right now?
I was in finance at Credit Suisse for 2 years trading. Now I'm at a tech startup doing sales and marketing. Okay.
So last summer, or maybe you still have the jobs, but last summer game week, all right, you went 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, got done with work, jumped on a plane. Walk me through what a typical weekend or week looked like, as a pro player, during the summertime last year.
Yeah, for sure. So early in the week, I would get up earlier, probably around 6:30, go to the field to do skill and stick work. So it'd be shooting, some agility, ladders type stuff, stick work, sometimes some running, and then I'd go to work. And then after work is when I would do my lift. So when I broke it up, it made it a little more manageable, because it would be 45 to an hour in the morning, and then another 45 to an hour after work at night. And I would do that early in the week, and then taper off as I got kind of closer to the weekend, obviously, because I wanted to be fresh. So when I got to Thursday or Friday, even sometimes Friday, I wouldn't do much, because we'd have a practice that Friday night. But Thursday, I would just pick one or the other, a lot of stick work, skill work, and a small lift. And then once Friday came, sometimes I would do a little something in the morning. If not, I would just wait for that practice at night, get tuned up for the game, make sure I was sleeping really well late in the week, because, I did gets hectic, obviously. And then, it would be practice Friday night. We wake up Saturday, hopefully get another good night's sleep, and then play in the game. And then I was back to New York that next day, Sunday. So it gets to be a lot. And if you want to play well, you can't be, going out and like enjoying your summer as much, because it's obviously a balance. You got to pick and choose like what you want to do. So I just kind of waited. I chose to kind of wait for my season to be over before, I had my fun, or, going out too much. Like a lot of, obviously, my buddies that don't play sports are out every weekend or out every night actually in the summer. But
So you seem like a very driven person. What goals do you still have in the game of lacrosse that you really want to achieve?
I mean, I would like to obviously like continue playing as long as I can. And hopefully, I can keep playing a long time. But it's a good question. But obviously, like PLL, like I'd love to win a championship. And last year, like coming close was a cool experience. And our team didn't really start clicking until the end of the year, because it was everyone's team was brand new. So it was brand new league. So it was hard to kind of find my rhythm as well as our team's rhythm. And, we didn't really find that rhythm until like late in the year. And like me personally, I didn't find my rhythm until late in the year too. So I want to have a full season kind of where, I have, and obviously this summer, we're not sure how that's going to end up, but a full season where I have my rhythm and kind of I'm used to the league. I'm used to, the game rules, my teammates, my team, and like eventually win the, PLL championship. But, I just want to be, obviously I want to improve every single year. And I think I'm at an age where I can still keep improving. And I want to do that for as long as I can.
Are there any guys that you played against, whether it's an LSM or D mid, that every time like you get the ball and you're like, all right, I'm ready to dodge, and it's like, oh man, this guy's guarding me? Any like notable guys that you remember, like, jacking you up or getting on your arms bad or something like that?
Not too much, but I was kind of fortunate because I got to play against some awesome guys in college every single day in practice. So having to dodge John Sexton, who you guys will be talking about every day in practice, and then kind of getting switched up on Landis and a few other really good defensemen we had at Notre Dame, prepared me kind of for this next level. So there's not, too many people that I'm, terrified or like, oh shoot, I got to dodge them. The one thing about getting like slashed really hard, I realized in the pros, it's really hard to do if you run hard. If you're just standing there, you're going to get relaxed. But if you're fast and you're running hard and you're dodging hard, they can't do that because you're going to blow by them if you do. So I just make sure when I catch the ball, I'm ready to go on my toes and stuff so I don't get beaten up too bad.
Yeah. What do you think the future of the MLL is?
I have no idea if there is a future of the MLL. I don't know. It was fun, but it's hard. Like, there's not really room for 2 pro leagues, but I still have buddies that play in it. So it's awesome for them, obviously, to keep playing and doing that thing. But it's tough, obviously. They're in a tough position. And, any pro sports franchise is tough. Obviously, you guys probably saw, like, I think that XFL league is already done, and the one before that, AFL, is done. So it's hard to like create a really good sports league, and hopefully, I think the PL is doing really, really well, and it's going to be tough for, I guess, the ML to keep up or to catch up, whatever it is. But it's going to be hard to have both exist for a while. The NLL is pretty cool too, the indoor league. I dabbled with it this past winter a little bit too, actually.
One thing that I felt like the PLL does like they really focus on is the players doing self-promotion. Like, a lot of like selfies and like, videos and all this stuff. Doesn't seem like we see a lot of Sergio doing that. How do you feel about do they push the players to do that? Is that kind of like, hey, it's not for me, or like, what are your thoughts on that?
Like I do a little bit on social media myself, but I try to keep, I'm not going to be somebody that I'm not type thing. And but if they're comfortable, like if you're not comfortable with doing it, obviously they really want you posting as much as you can, and they want you promoting yourself and promoting the league. But everyone can do it in their own way. Some people choose to, go all out and do everything. And some people kind of I'm more of the pick and choose kind of guy. So it's like, if I see something I think fits and I like and is not too out of category for me, I'll do, but otherwise I won't. So, yeah, but it's good. It's good. And it grows the sport, and now it's a great way to interact with, kids that play and fans of the sport and fans of your team and fans of the PLL. So,
American Flag Football League. Talk to me about that. Somebody sent that to me and was like, yo man, he plays pro flag football. What's the deal with that?
Yeah, no, I played in like one tournament. It was pretty cool though. It was like a pros versus Joes tournament. And every pro team had 2 pro athletes that were non-NFL guys. So like most of the guys were former NFL guys, but then I was considered like a pro athlete that was not a non-NFL guy. So I got picked on a team with Michael Vick was actually my quarterback. And then we had a couple other like good players. I think Steve Smith, he was a receiver for the Giants for a little bit, not the other Steve Smith. But then like a bunch of other players. And like we only actually ended up playing 1 game, but got to make some good money off it, which was cool. And catch some passes from Mike Vick. So, but we lost in that 1 game. But it was like a close game, I think.
So with you being in pros, you've had a lot of opportunities. What do you think has been like the most memorable opportunity that you've had outside of lacrosse that came because of your exposure through lacrosse that you've gotten so far? Other than maybe playing the flag football game.
Yeah, so flag football would be up there. But the other one that'd be up there was I actually got to try out for the Cleveland Browns last fall. That was pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
They flew me into the facility and like GM was there, head coach, everybody went through a workout. They really liked my workout, but it was right before training camp. So they decided to just keep my name in there if something happened. But that was pretty cool. And then somebody from the Seahawks actually just hit me up too. So they want me to come out. But yeah, it's not that we'll see. It's like a long shot, obviously, but those are cool opportunities that came because I knew somebody through lacrosse, saw me play, saw like my athleticism, and hooked me up with people from the NFL.
Is that ever something that you kind of look back on and been like, oh man, maybe I should have gone that direction? Any thoughts there? Any thought like?
Yeah. I had like some Big Ten offers coming out of school to play football, but like I love my decision with Notre Dame. I kind of wish I would have tried to play both at Notre Dame. It would have been tough, but that's the one thing looking back I maybe would have changed. But other than that, like I'm really like I love lacrosse and I'm happy that I played college lacrosse.
Now, looking back as a guy who's made it to the top level here, what advice would you give players as they go through this themselves that you wish you would have had back when you were still in high school?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good one. There's some things I wish like I would have focused on a little more, I guess, especially being like a midi. I think if I could have developed or been more, it's more of a confidence thing, but being confident, like shooting with both hands makes you really, really hard to guard, especially as a midi. And as a tackman, it can help you too. But like developing, the earlier you develop that confidence to just take those shots with your offhand, I think that can help you a ton. And then obviously, other than that, I mean, I'd say like maybe I wish I would have watched a little more lacrosse and studied the game a little more from like a outside perspective. I just always used to just practice and kind of do my own thing, but I think studying the game can help as well.
Now, the other question that I've gotten a lot that one of my players actually just texted me about is, Coach, how many dodges do I really need to master? What's your opinion on that? How many different dodges are you using a lot, or is it just a couple that you have your go-to? How much should they be looking at this just to be successful all the time? You mentioned a lot of speed, but how many different moves are you?
Yeah, I think to start, you have to be pretty simple. I like love just, a right to right or a left to left to set your guy up. And then obviously incorporate the splits after that and the rolls. But the really simple ones are the ones that are the most important. And the only way you kind of get better at them, obviously you can work on them in air, but like working on them in practice is the best. And I know one-on-ones are sometimes a time where you're like, I don't feel like doing one-on-ones right now. But the more reps you can get doing one-on-ones against like live opponents, the better and more comfortable you're going to get with the ball on your stick as you're dodging. But I'd say keep it simple at first. So right to rights, left to lefts, and then set them up with splits and then rolls as a secondary type option.
Okay. Now the last question that I have, because I didn't want to take up too much of your time, and again, we appreciate you jumping on here. How you're around all these great guys that have a lot of experience. What's the team like as far as leadership roles go? Should these guys be going out, and how do you motivate teammates around you? What's kind of your style there, and how do captains kind of lead you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, obviously, I think number one, like, it's kind of cliche, but lead by example is important. If you're a captain or leader of a team and you're not working hard and you're not, the one that's willing to like do all the dirty work type thing, guys aren't going to kind of respect you as much. So I think that's like number one, obviously. And an easy thing to do is just be the one that's working the hardest and not afraid to, try things, or not afraid to, be the first one in line, or all that type of thing. And then secondly, obviously, everybody reacts differently, but, I try to stay – depends kind of what kind of coach you have, but if you're playing with like a really, really negative coach, it helps when your leaders or captains are staying positive, because they can't be getting negative too. If your coach is negative all the time, then players are going to be absolutely miserable. So that's kind of something that I try to do, is kind of be positive and think about like the good things and keep guys' confidence high. Like lacrosse is such a confidence type game, and I don't think some people realize it, but like, you're playing with a stick that's, 4 or 5 feet away from you. And like, if you're not confident and your head's not in the game, you're going to be dropping passes. You're not going to be throwing good passes because you're going to be scared. And so like a lot of it's confidence and just trying to build teammates' confidence and stay positive at all times. So make sure like everyone I'm playing with is positive and believes in themselves.
Now you really hit on this confidence thing. I got to ask at least one more question here. How do you keep your confidence so high?
It's hard, definitely. There's been times where, my confidence isn't that high still, but it's a lot of it's, obviously a mindset, and like I'm still working on it and can do a better job. And when things are going good, it's easy to be confident, right? But when you miss a shot or you turn the ball over, it's like you that's in your head, and it's just a good thing to try to erase that all the time and not even think about that and just go and play the next thing. So it's all about like a mindset and how you're thinking and how you're approaching the game. But if you put in the work, which I'm sure all you guys do, put in a lot of work, just have that in the back of your mind, and just if things go wrong, kind of put them behind you and just keep going forward.
That's really good advice. Well, we appreciate your time, man. Thanks again so much for talking to our players. Good luck. We wish you all the success in the world, and I hope your family continues to be safe as we get through this.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Lucas, you got a Redwoods jersey on? What's the back of it? Oh, I saw it, but I can't see it anymore.
Sergio, real quick, anything that we should poke Sexton about? Any questions you'd like to pose to the next guy?
You could talk to him about his traditional mesh stick. He loves talking about the traditional stick, and it gives him an advantage for ground balls. That's what our other defenseman at Notre Dame thought.
Okay. All right. All right, cool. Any nicknames that people had about for him or anything like that?
John didn't. I don't know if he had many nicknames. We kind of called him Sexton or John, either one.
Okay. All right, cool. But just like Justin said, we appreciate you doing this and taking the time. It's great, and good luck. With accomplishing your goals like you talked about. So really, really appreciate you taking the time.
Yep. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.